Today we're going to talk about ways to keep residents within the safety of your facility. An elopement is an occurrence where a resident leaves your facility without your direct supervision or consent. Elopements can produce serious consequences to the resident. For instance, they can be injured or actually killed. And they can produce grave legal consequences to both the staff and to the directors of the facility. At 2 o'clock in the morning, if you determine that you've lost a resident, you need to know what to do exactly in order to manage this kind of a crisis situation. But let's never forget, the number one priority in the management of elopement is to prevent such an occurrence.
When a resident leaves the safety of your facility without permission or staff supervision, it's called elopement. Elopement does not happen very frequently, but residents who do wander outside your facility are in grave danger. They could get hurt or even die. If residents get lost outside during wintertime, they could freeze to death. In some ways, lost residents with dementia are like lost children. Like an attentive parent, it is your responsibility to keep track of where the residents are at all times. Prevention is the best way to manage elopement.
Did you know? If a resident leaves the safety of your facility, this is a very serious problem that requires your immediate attention. If you notice a resident checking the doors, standing by exits, or watching you enter the security codes, that resident may be trying to leave the facility. Some residents can figure out your security system. If you think a resident has left your facility, check all the residents in your facility immediately.
You can help prevent elopement by recognizing residents who are more likely to try to leave your facility. Residents with a past history of elopement are a high risk for another elopement. A resident who has wandered outside your facility in the past is more likely to try to leave again. Pay special attention to these residents and make sure you always know where they are. Residents who frequently wander are also a high risk for elopement. If you see wandering residents checking doors, hanging around near exits, or watching keypad codes, they may be trying to leave. Watch wandering residents to make sure that they don't try to leave your facility. Other signs that a resident may try to leave your facility include increased confusion, delirium, and new behavioral problems. Residents who seem more confused than usual may not realize what they are doing and may wander outside and get lost. Residents with delirium or residents who start imagining things that aren't there may leave your facility because they believe that there is something important that they need to do elsewhere. Residents with new behavioral problems may also try to wander outside. Anytime residents exhibit new behavioral problems, they need extra attention. Other residents who are high risk for elopement are residents with absent caregivers. Some residents have a spouse or family member who usually stays in your facility and cares for them. If that caregiver leaves, the resident may start wandering and may even try to leave your facility. Pay special attention to residents with absent caregivers until the caregiver returns. Remember, prevention is the best way to manage elopement. Sometimes staff members do not work to prevent elopement, and residents do leave your facility. Residents may leave when security procedures are not followed. For example, doors could be left unlocked or open. Residents may leave if staff members ignore a security alarm. If a security alarm goes off, you must react immediately. Figure out what set the alarm off and count all your residents to make sure no one is missing. If you discover that a resident has left your facility, the first thing to do is organize a search of your building and nearby areas outside. Tell your co-workers about the missing resident. Then split up into 2 teams. One group will search for the missing resident, and the other group will count the other residents to make sure that they are all safe inside your facility. Never leave other residents unattended while looking for a missing resident. If one resident has wandered off, it is possible that another resident has followed or will try to follow. The staff members who are not involved in searching for the missing resident should figure out how the missing resident left the facility and make sure that other residents don't wander out through the same exit. If you don't find the resident by searching your building and nearby areas outside, call the police for help. You can help the police by giving them pictures of the missing resident. It may also be easier to find residents who wear identity bracelets. When the missing resident is found and returned to your facility, the resident must be completely checked for any injuries. Call your supervisor to report everything that happened and call the resident's family as well. The resident who is missing must be watched continuously to make sure that future wandering outside does not occur. After everything is settled, meet with your fellow staff members and supervisors to plan how to prevent future problems. Clara is clueless.
Excuse me. I just saw a man in the parking lot who looks like one of your residents. I wasn't sure if he was supposed to be outside by himself.
Well, none of the residents are supposed to be outside by themselves.
Well, okay. I just thought you might want to take a look outside.
Fine. I'll go take a look. I don't see anybody outside.
Excuse me, I'm here to see my father. I've looked all over for him, and I can't find him. I know he wanders around sometime, but I've looked all over the place, and he's nowhere to be found.
Why didn't you tell me sooner? What am I going to do now? I'm going to be in so much trouble. Oh, I'm going to be in so much trouble. Oh.
What did Clara do wrong? She didn't pay attention to her residents. When the first visitor told Clara about the man outside, she didn't count the residents to make sure no one was missing. When Clara found out that someone was definitely missing, she didn't alert her coworkers. She didn't organize a search for the missing resident. She didn't count the other residents to make sure that everyone else was safe inside.
What a game, huh?
Sandy is smart.
Are you feeling all right?
Excuse me, I just saw a man in the parking lot who looks like one of your residents. I wasn't sure if he was supposed to be outside by himself.
Okay, thank you so much for telling me. I'll go check right away. Sarah, could you come help me, please? I think someone may have wandered outside. I'm going to go outside to look around. Could you count the residents to make sure no one is missing?
Sure.
Okay. I didn't see anyone outside.
Well, I counted everybody, and Mr. Sanderson is missing.
Oh, let's get everyone on the staff together, and I'll take some people outside with me to see if we can find them.
Well, I'll get everyone else to help me figure out how we got out in the first place so we can make sure nobody else gets out.
Okay. If we don't find him in 10 minutes, let's call the police.
Okay, I'll meet you back here in about 10 minutes.
Okay. Oh, we found him. He was down by the gate. The nurse is with him now, making sure he's not hurt.
The exterminator propped open the back door, so I guess Mr. Sanderson walked out the back door.
I have told that exterminator 100 times not to leave the door open. We need to get a new exterminator. Let's call our supervisor and tell her what happened.
Okay, that's a good idea. We should also call Mr. Sanderson's family.
What did Sandy and Sarah do right? Sandy paid attention to her residents. Sarah counted the residents to see if anyone was missing. When they discovered that Mr. Sanderson was missing, Sandy and Sarah alerted their co-workers. Sandy and Sarah organized a search for Mr. Sanderson. Sarah figured out how Mr. Sanderson got outside and made sure no one else wandered out behind him. Sandy found Mr. Sanderson and asked a nurse to check him for any injuries. Sandy and Sarah called their supervisor and Mr. Sanderson's family.
Mr. Sims has Alzheimer's disease. He was recently admitted to your facility. Last year, he wandered away from another unsecured facility. You notice him checking doors and turning the doorknobs. What can you do to help Mr. Sims?
Lock him in his room. Remind Mr. Sims that he has to stay in the facility.
Tell his wife to come sit with him every day.
Watch him very carefully and check on him frequently.
At 2 o'clock in the morning, you notice that Mr. Sims is not in his bed. You look in the day room, and you don't see him there either. What do you do now?
Check all the doors. Organize a search. Check his room again in about 15 minutes.
Yell his name out over the loudspeaker.
Wait until morning.
You search the building and you still cannot find Mr. Sims. One of your co-workers suspects that the back door may not have closed completely when one of the families left at 11 p.m. What do you do next?
Send everyone outside to look for Mr. Sims. Send part of the staff outside to look for Mr. Sims.
Call Mrs. Sims and ask her to come over.
Don't worry about it too much. Mr. Sims will turn up eventually.
When you search outside, you still can't find Mr. Sims. All of the other residents are still safely inside your facility. What do you do next?
Don't do anything until you talk to your supervisor in the morning. Call Mrs. Sims and ask her to come over to help.
Call the police. Give them a detailed description of Mr. Sims.
Drive around honking your horn and screaming his name.
After an hour of searching, the police find Mr. Sims sitting safely at a local gas station chatting with the cashier. The worker didn't know that he had dementia until she noticed the alert bracelet on his wrist. The police returned Mr. Sims to your facility, and he seems to be in good health. Mrs. Sims is relieved to hear that Mr. Sims has been found. What do you do next?
Make sure Mr. Sims is not injured. Watch for him the rest of the night. Lock him in his room and never let him out again.
Have him transferred to the psychiatric unit.
Tell his wife to take him home and take care of him herself.